This morning, we have a report that the object got much brighter than expected, and moreover, the color of the object is blue, bluer than the sun. And that's very surprising because usually when there is dust around an object, it should make it red. I should also say that the news yesterday was that this object came closest to the sun, and it received a huge amount of heat from the sun. And the latest report indicates that it became extremely bright, much more than expected for familiar comets. Now, yesterday, the first report about what it's doing closest to the sun came out. These are instruments that are capable of looking very close to the sun. And it was realized that, in fact, the object is brightening. It becomes very bright right now as it comes close to the sun, and it's turning blue. And the color blue is very surprising because if there is any dust shed off a natural nucleus of a comet, the dust would make it red. And usually the surface of the object is at least an order of magnitude cooler than the surface of the sun. But what the new data indicates is that the object is bluer than the sun. How is that possible?
Right now, a rogue interstellar object, designated 3I Atlas, is racing through the outer solar system at over 97,000 miles per hour. Its trajectory defies known gravitational models. Its chemical signature, according to early spectra, doesn't match any comet or asteroid ever catalogued. And as it speeds closer to the inner planets, one question hangs in the cosmic silence. What exactly is it? At the edge of the solar system, where sunlight fades into starlight, a faint glimmer appeared against the black. Instruments in Chile's Atacama Desert caught it first. A streak of reflected light moving at 97,000 miles per hour, far faster than any known comet on a similar inbound trajectory. It was catalogued provisionally as 3I Atlas, the third interstellar object ever observed. At first it seemed routine, a frozen wanderer, another relic from the dust between the stars. Yet within days, routine dissolved into anomaly. As observatories from Mauna Kea to La Palma locked their telescopes onto the newcomer, data began to whisper contradictions. Its albedo, the measure of reflected light, was wrong. Too dim for its supposed size, yet too massive to be dust and ice alone. Its tail, expected to bloom under solar radiation, never materialized. Instead, 3I Atlas glided forward as though immune to the sun's warming influence. To astronomers, it defied every photometric model of a comet. To physicists, it broke the rules of celestial thermodynamics. Then came the orbit. It didn't curve gracefully toward the sun like an obedient visitor drawn by gravity. It cut through space with surgical precision, slicing across the ecliptic at an angle no natural body should hold for long. Its trajectory, when plotted, resembled intent rather than chance. Elon Musk, known for his fascination with orbital mechanics, reviewed the open-source telemetry himself. Hours later, he posted a short message on X. "This one's not behaving like a rock." The statement ignited speculation worldwide. Was it an error in measurement or something else entirely? Yet while news outlets clamored for comment, NASA's official feeds remained still. The Jet Propulsion Laboratory released nothing. The Minor Planet Center delayed updates. Silence became its own message. Meanwhile, astrophysicists across continents recalculated, rechecked, reran simulations. Each result returned stranger than the last. Density estimates placed 3I Atlas closer to metal than ice. Its spectral fingerprint showed traces inconsistent with any known interstellar object. And its rotation, barely detectable, suggested stabilization, as though something internal was maintaining its orientation. The world watched, fascinated and uneasy. In an age where every skyward event becomes a viral image, this one defied clarity. 3I Atlas refused to glow. It absorbed more light than it reflected. Its blackness seemed purposeful, as if designed to hide. The deeper telescopes peered, the less they saw. Still, humanity's instruments persisted, following the silent traveler as it approached the asteroid belt. The scientific community debated explanations: gravitational resonance, magnetic deflection, or an uncharted composition beyond current physics. But one quiet question lingered among those who studied its path. What if this object wasn't entirely passive? Then, as it neared the gravitational boundary of the belt, the impossible happened. 3I Atlas deviated, abruptly, decisively, veering several degrees off its predicted trajectory. No gravitational body was near enough to cause the shift. No known force could account for it. The anomaly rippled through every orbital tracking system on Earth, and in that silent motion, a pattern began. The object had changed direction, the universe had blinked, and humanity was now staring into a mystery that seemed to be staring back. In the vacuum beyond Mars, where sunlight thins to a golden whisper, 3I Atlas performed the unthinkable. Its path, once predictable, once defined by Newton's laws and Kepler's ellipses, bent. Without warning, the interstellar object adjusted its trajectory by nearly 1.7 degrees against every calculated vector. No gravitational body stood nearby. No solar wind surge was detected, it simply turned. At first, astronomers dismissed the deviation as data noise, a sensor artifact born of distance. But as observatories in Chile, Hawaii, and Spain cross-referenced their readings, the truth hardened into fact. 3I Atlas had maneuvered, deliberately, elegantly, and with precision far beyond the chaotic nature of cosmic debris. The mathematics refused to lie. The laws of physics for a moment seemed negotiable. Behind the scenes, encrypted communication channels among global space agencies began to hum. NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory quietly flagged the object as a Level 3 trajectory anomaly. Such designations are rare, reserved for phenomena that challenge both prediction and precedent. Yet publicly, NASA's feeds remained silent, its social media dormant, its official bulletins unchanged. What could be more terrifying to a world of scientists than the absence of data? Independent astronomers pressed forward, dissecting each photon of reflected light. Radar imaging suggested something angular, edges too sharp for a natural fragment. Under certain wavelengths, the object's shape flickered between a spindle and a disk, suggesting either rotation or active modulation. To some, it resembled the architecture of a structure. To others, it was merely the cosmos playing tricks at the limit of resolution. Meanwhile, Elon Musk's engineers within SpaceX and Starlink began their own quiet calculations. Telemetry from Starlink's orbital mesh recorded subtle electromagnetic fluctuations whenever 3I Atlas crossed its field of vision, not interference, resonance, as if the object were responding to frequencies Earth itself was emitting. Inside the aerospace corridors of Hawthorne, private alerts were circulated. Potential engineered body. Do not release findings. The phrase engineered body would never appear in public archives, yet it would haunt every subsequent discussion. By mid-February, the anomaly had deepened. New observations revealed micro-adjustments in the object's spin rate, each correlating with its distance from the sun. It was adapting to solar radiation pressure, but in a way no passive material could. Either its surface possessed properties unknown to science, or something beneath that surface was guiding it. Across the Atlantic, at the European Space Agency, requests for international collaboration were quietly shelved. The reason was classified, though whispers spread through the astrophysics community. NASA had initiated data containment, removing raw orbital information from public servers. In open forums, amateur astronomers noticed gaps where once there were continuous logs. Entire nights of data had vanished. Yet in the vacuum, 3I Atlas continued its silent performance, an object that refused to obey celestial mechanics. Its path now intersected Earth's orbital plane, timed perfectly for alignment within months. Was it coincidence or course correction? The question split the global scientific consensus, and just as the arguments reached fever pitch, the signal changed again. Spectral analysis showed a sudden drop in reflected radiation, an unnatural blackout, as if the object had cloaked itself, rejecting sunlight entirely. The world's telescopes stared into darkness, and for the first time in modern history, an interstellar traveler had vanished mid-flight. It had gone silent. And silence, in the language of the cosmos, is rarely without meaning. By late February, 3I Atlas had disappeared from every major observatory's tracking grid. No reflected light, no radio echo, no trace in the visible or infrared spectrums. It was as if the object had folded itself out of existence. For a world accustomed to data and transparency, the silence that followed was deafening. Official channels across the globe fell still. NASA's public feed, usually a symphony of daily updates, slipped into procedural monotony. The European Space Agency cited instrument recalibration. The Minor Planet Center delayed its reports indefinitely. Yet, behind closed systems, encrypted traffic surged between the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, the Pentagon, and SpaceX's private servers. The world's most powerful instruments were no longer searching, they were listening. Inside professional astronomy circles, unease became palpable. Independent researchers noticed alterations in publicly available telemetry logs. Orbital timestamps no longer aligned. Wavelength data appeared truncated. To the trained eye, the edits were deliberate. Across academic networks, quiet accusations began to surface. NASA was sanitizing its data. Some believed it was to prevent public panic. Others feared something deeper, that the data itself contained an answer no one wanted to see. At SpaceX headquarters in Hawthorne, Elon Musk's silence was just as conspicuous. His post had stopped. Insiders reported late-night meetings with engineers, communications with government officials, and an unusual increase in satellite reconfiguration requests. The Starlink constellation began transmitting on frequencies outside its normal range, testing, probing, scanning the same void where 3i Atlas had last been seen. If the object was still there, it was invisible to traditional optics, but perhaps not to electromagnetic resonance. Meanwhile, in the southern hemisphere, the skies refused to stay silent. Amateur astronomers in South Africa began to detect faint, irregular pulses in the 1420 MHz hydrogen line, an area of the spectrum universally considered the cosmic neutral. At first, the signals were dismissed as terrestrial interference, but their origin shifted with the stars, synchronized with the missing coordinates of 3i Atlas. A pattern emerged: 6 pulses, a pause, then another 6, structured, intentional, mathematical. When the data reached the SETI network, the reaction was immediate and cautious. Internal memos warned against public disclosure until confirmation. Private analysis revealed a chilling detail. The pulses carried harmonic overtones that didn't exist in natural astrophysical emissions. They weren't random. They were encoded. Within hours, the signals vanished. What remained was an eerie static field, as if the universe itself had erased its own footprints. The story should have ended there. But nothing about 3i Atlas was ordinary. Weeks later, a low-resolution image surfaced online, a leaked frame from the Sutherland Observatory archives. It showed nothing more than a faint luminous point against the darkness. But in the data beneath the image lay something extraordinary: isotopic signatures impossible to forge. Among them, traces of technetium-99, an unstable isotope never naturally occurring, its half-life a testament to artificial synthesis. The implication was staggering. Whatever 3i Atlas was, it had carried material once forged in the hearts of reactors, not stars. And that revelation, buried beneath redacted files and silence, marked a turning point. The agencies would not confirm. They would not deny. And so, in a world built upon the certainty of data, humanity was left with only one truth: the faint echo of a signal that had no origin, no language, and no explanation. But in the deep radio noise, one final pulse remained, a single tone, narrowband and deliberate, whispering through the hydrogen line. It was the beginning of a message, and it would change everything that followed. At 03:12 UTC on a quiet night in early March, the universe blinked. For exactly 7 seconds, a narrowband transmission cut through the galactic background, sharp, rhythmic, deliberate. The source: a point beyond Mars's orbit in the same silent corridor where 3i Atlas had vanished. The frequency: 1420 405 MHz, the hydrogen line, chosen by humanity as the universal constant for communication with the stars. But this time it was the cosmos that had spoken first. The signal wasn't noise. Its amplitude rose and fell with surgical precision, forming a repeating sequence of prime numbers: 2, 3, 5, 7, 11. Patterns that no natural process could generate. To those who understood the language of mathematics, it was as close to a signature as existence itself could offer. The emission's harmonics revealed compression, meaning it was encoded, purposeful, intelligent. And then, as suddenly as it had appeared, it vanished. Within hours, the detection data was quarantined. NASA invoked an internal communication blackout. known as Protocol C4, reserved for events of potential exobiological intelligence. SETI analysts were ordered into non-disclosure. Every trace of the transmission was purged from public access, scrubbed from observatory archives. Only fragments survived in private storage drives, enough to confirm what official agencies refused to admit. 3i Atlas had transmitted a message. Behind the curtain of silence, chaos reigned. The Deep Space Network's primary receivers in Canberra and Madrid detected faint echoes, residual harmonics lingering in the ionosphere. To those listening closely, it seemed as though the signal had never truly ended. It was bouncing, refracting, embedding itself in Earth's magnetic field. Whispers among physicists suggested a darker possibility, that the signal wasn't merely received, it was synchronized. Amid the secrecy, SpaceX's Starlink network registered anomalous interference across multiple orbital bands. Satellites reported spontaneous frequency locks at 1420 metamorphs, the same wavelength as the 3i Atlas transmission. No command had been issued. No human operator had initiated the alignment. Yet across the constellation, thousands of microsatellites began transmitting in unison, creating a lattice of electromagnetic resonance that wrapped around the planet like a digital cocoon. Engineers tried to counter it, reboot systems, isolate nodes, but the synchronization persisted. It wasn't destructive, it was communicative, as if something beyond the atmosphere was using the network to whisper back. The patterns pulsed through the Starlink mesh in binary intervals, light, pause, light, and each sequence mirrored the 7-second rhythm of the original signal. To those who saw the data, one interpretation became unavoidable. 3i Atlas wasn't merely an object, it was a transmitter. And it had chosen Earth's own satellites to complete its circuit. The revelation sent quiet panic through the global intelligence community. If the signal was spreading through the orbital infrastructure, it was beyond containment. What it carried, information, instruction, or something else, remained unknown. But one fact stood clear. The synchronization wasn't random. It was directed. The alignment of frequencies followed the curvature of Earth's magnetosphere, tracing a path that led straight toward the planet's north magnetic pole. Then, as the Starlink data streams converged, an unmistakable pulse radiated outward, a single, concentrated burst that temporarily disrupted communications worldwide. It lasted less than a second, but for that one instant, every connected device on Earth registered the same binary imprint 01101. 110. The sequence was meaningless until it was cross-referenced. With NASA's archived decodes of 3i Atlas's trajectory vector, it matched perfectly. And when Elon Musk finally broke his silence, his message was brief. 3 words sent to millions across the globe. It's already here. No explanation followed. No further transmission was recorded. But somewhere in the data's echo, a pattern still flickered. Persistent, intelligent, and patient. As if whatever had reached out across the void was now listening back. By the time 3i Atlas crossed the orbit of Mars, every radio telescope on Earth was pointed at a patch of sky that no longer glowed. The object, once silent and invisible, now emitted a pulse so faint that only the most sensitive interferometers could trace it, an oscillation barely distinguishable from the whisper of cosmic background radiation, and yet buried within that signal was a pattern. It was consistent, predictable, intelligent. The cosmos, for the first time in recorded history, was speaking not through distance, but through persistence. Inside NASA, classified directives shifted from observation to containment. Documents later leaked under anonymous encryption revealed preparations for a planetary defense readiness test. Though the terminology was vague, the timelines uncertain. At the same time, SpaceX's networks dimmed. Public feeds, telemetry, and launches froze without explanation. The world's most connected aerospace ecosystem had gone dark, deliberately. It was as if an invisible countdown had begun, then came the deceleration. Astrophysical models predicted 3i Atlas should accelerate as it neared the sun's gravitational influence. Instead, it slowed. Not by drag, not by impact, by control. Its speed dropped nearly 20% over just 14 days, with no external cause detectable. To decelerate in the void required energy, a directed force. Whatever 3i Atlas was, it was not adrift. It was arriving. The light curve flattened, temperature signatures stabilized, and faint emissions began to form geometric harmonics, oscillations that repeated every 13.7 minutes, mirroring the periodicities found in neural signal simulations. To biophysicists, it resembled a heartbeat. To mathematicians, it resembled intention. To philosophers, it was something far more profound: communication between the animate and the infinite. Meanwhile, in observatories still permitted to operate, telescopes recorded strange reflections across the asteroid belt. Spectral readings indicated ionization trails, a residual plasma field shaped not by chance but by pattern. Each filament aligned toward a single destination: Earth. The implication was impossible to ignore. Atlas was no longer following gravity. It was following a signal. Governments prepared responses, though none would confirm their nature. Satellite networks reoriented. High-altitude defense radars shifted their scopes toward deep space. Within secure conference rooms, physicists argued over semantics. Was this contact or convergence? But beneath the technical language, one truth resonated: humanity's monopoly on intention was ending. As the object neared the inner solar system, energy readings peaked. For 48 hours, Earth's magnetosphere registered fluctuations resembling a mild geomagnetic storm. Auroras shimmered at equatorial latitudes, soft curtains of violet and green rippling in skies unaccustomed to light. Beneath their beauty, sensors across the planet recorded an electromagnetic frequency identical to the 3i Atlas signal. The planet, for the briefest moment, seemed to hum in synchrony with the visitor. Then silence. No signal, no reflection, no trace of motion. 3i Atlas was gone, but in its place the ionosphere pulsed once, an echo, compressed and harmonic, embedding itself into the background noise of Earth itself. Every receiver on the planet detected it. No one could decode it. And yet, as the pulse faded, the world's instruments recorded a singular, inexplicable phenomenon. A thin, coherent beam of energy, microscopic in scale, cosmic in precision, descended from near-Earth orbit, dispersing harmlessly across the upper atmosphere. Its spectral composition matched the hydrogen line. Its shape matched the binary signature once carried in the Starlink synchronization event. Then, as if completing a cycle, the data stopped. No more signals, no more anomalies, only the faint, quiet shimmer of charged light above the poles, still visible from orbit, still unaccounted for. Perhaps it was a farewell. Or perhaps it was the beginning of something far beyond human comprehension, a message written not in words but in physics. The silence was not absence.